Welcome back to another episode of the House Husband Diaries. As always, I am your host, Carter C. And today is a great day for the House Husband Diaries videos because I am going to share with you in this video how I make a decision to vote. I know a lot of people don't want to talk about it. They don't talk about who they vote for or why they vote. But I thought it would be good as we're beginning this year of this election year to kind of just put it out there and see what people say. I mean, a lot of people have already commented on some of my political videos. Obviously, some people agree, some people disagree. Half of America agreed with Donald Trump, half didn't. Same with Barack Obama and Mitt Romney, yada, yada, yada. I mean, that's just par for the course. So I thought it'd be interesting because it seems like, as I said in a previous video, people start talking about morality. They start talking about how could you vote for this person because of this, and then, vice versa. How could you vote for that person because of that? And I think what's really interesting is there's no way for anyone to agree with anything and everything in one candidate. You're not going to agree with everything a candidate says, everything they think, everything they do, everything they wear, who they marry, whatever, what they eat. There's just no way. You don't agree with any human being, especially strangers, with everything. I'm sure if any of you are married, you have disagreements with your spouses. If you're dating, you have disagreements with the person you're dating. If you're just friends, best of friends, you spend too much time together, you're going to disagree. You're going to have a disagreement and potentially an argument. It's just the way we're human. So I just start with, I'm not going to agree with everything. Whether it's a more liberal candidate, whether it's a more conservative candidate, whether it's an independent candidate, whoever it is, I'm not going to agree with everything. Most likely, I'm not going to agree with a lot of what goes on. And even more likely, they're not going to consult me before they make a decision, right? I'm 100% sure no president, senator, in history knows who I am. So I'm not really sure that it should matter. With that being said, in order for me to make sense of an election, I boil down what I believe is the top issue, the biggest issue facing our country over the next 4 years. And maybe I'll get to a list of like the top 2 issues that I think will face our country over the next 4 years, because I don't believe that having a list of 10 or 15 or 20 things, one, I don't know that I can get a list that long that I agree with any presidential candidate on. And two, I don't know how many of those items, those issues on the list, any president can work on in 4 years. Because it's not like you vote for a president, they go into office, and then they just do whatever they want. And that's the whole point of our republic, right? The Democratic Republic is to have Congress, which is a check on the president, and the judiciary, right, which is a check on everything, and they all check each other, and that's the balance of power. So you're voting for a president, which is more of a mouthpiece and more of someone that's going to initiate trade talks, what have you, with different countries, and they're going to sign stuff. Yes, there's executive privilege, and they'll do all sorts of stuff. But for the most part, what a president says he can do on the campaign trail and what he actually has the power to do when he's in office are two very different things. And so I can't bring myself to make a list much past 2 things, because I don't know that they're going to be able to get the first 2 things. So I'm really looking for a candidate that I agree with on the major issue. Is this going to be a major point of their efforts over their 4-year tenure? So like for 2016, my number one issue in the, for the next 4 years was the economy. I thought the economy really needed to be worked on. And I said in a previous video, I have a master's degree in accounting, and I was living in Charleston, South Carolina, and the jobs were $50,000. And I was told I didn't get a job because there was someone who had a CPA license and 20 plus years of CPA experience that took a job for $50,000 a year. Now, I don't know how much money you make. I don't know where you live. I don't know what you think, if you think that's a lot of money or not. But I can tell you that a CPA with 20 plus years experience, living in a town as expensive as Charleston, South Carolina, should be making a lot closer to $100,000 than $50,000. And they were available, and they were willing to take a job for that salary. So that's a moot point. But what's interesting about that is if you have a bunch of younger people coming out of college, coming out of grad school that have paid all this money for college and graduate degrees, they've obviously put off experience so that they could get the education. But then when they go to get a job, if they're facing, a competition from someone that has 20 plus years of experience and they may only be 25 years old, and this other person has 25 years experience in a job, you're obviously going to take the person with 25 years experience over somebody that has an education and no experience. That's a no-brainer for the business person. But that just shows that our economy isn't as rosy a picture or it wasn't as rosy a picture as Barack Obama was trying to make it. And it's not, I don't believe, in as rosy a position as Donald Trump's trying to make it to be now. So both sides can hate me on that. But what I see in day in and day out interactions with people, the economy is still an issue. Bringing living wage jobs and higher paying jobs back to America. We farm so much stuff overseas, it's unbelievable. And so our economy is changing. And then once you move to a service economy, a full service economy, I really don't know where that goes. And I'll look at that in more detail in an upcoming video on economics and especially the American economy. Because if you're not building stuff, if you're not creating stuff, and we've moved to plastic, so don't even talk about quality, right? And if you're not building quality stuff that people want, you don't really have anything. You can only do a service for so long before you don't need that service anymore because there's nothing foundational. There's no product. It's a whole nother topic, like I'm saying. That gets really into the weeds. So really, I think the economy is the number one thing. And when I looked at my two options, right? One, as much as I talk about how Bernie should have won the 2016 Democratic nomination, socialism's not the way to go. Socialism's terrible. So for the economy, that's a non-starter. So you got AOC, you got Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders. They're all like my worst nightmare. They're terrible. Like we couldn't be further apart on the economy, so I'll never vote for them. It's not because I couldn't have dinner with them. It's not because I don't think they may be nice people, outside of politics, but I couldn't vote for them because of what they say is most important to them. I just don't see as a problem, or I don't see their solution to the problem being the correct solution. So then you have Hillary Clinton and you've got Donald Trump. And Hillary Clinton was a terrible Secretary of State. Benghazi, the Clinton Foundation should have been audited 100 times over by now. The fact that it hasn't been audited, and when you look at all of the donations that went to the Clinton Foundation when they had positions of power and the drop off after she didn't win the presidential election and just the Clinton Foundation's totally sketch. Coupled with my time in Haiti back in 2010, 2011 after the earthquake, and Bill Clinton was like the UN envoy to Haiti after that, and just what I heard from people in Haiti about how the backroom dealings from the Clintons. I know enough. There's enough smoking guns there where I didn't think that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton would do a good job with the economy. It would be smoke and mirrors, and even though Donald Trump has run businesses into the ground, he's still made money. And saying that America first, he's going to bring jobs back, I have to believe that, because my other option is somebody that I know will do a terrible job. And so the only option is saying, okay, well, I hope that this guy will follow through on what he's saying. Maybe use a little less of that verbiage and go like the craziness, and just actually like make a trade agreement that's good for the U.S. Now, supposedly he's doing that. Whether you agree or disagree with that, I don't really know. I mean, the proof's in the pudding, but the proof's not going to come out for a while. We don't know all of the details in all of these trade agreements, but hopefully they're better than the ones we've had. And, we'll see. He seems to be following through on those promises. But it's going to take a while. Any economy that has hundreds of millions of people is just going to take a while to bring those jobs, build those plants, produce those products, and have that flow into the entire economy all the way from top to bottom, period. I think moving forward, not only is the economy of utmost importance, but we also have a tremendous number of issues that need to be dealt with ASAP. And that would be our national debt, our Social Security, and our health care. All ballooning costs, all need to be addressed. And I said that in an earlier video, no career politician is going to address those because it's political suicide. So I wrote an article that I deleted, whatever, but I wrote an article back in 2014 when my wife was in med school in San Antonio about how we need a businessman to be president, not a career politician. Now, I would not have chosen Donald Trump to be the businessman that would take over the reins of presidency, but he was the only one that stood up and was inspiring and seemed like he could be a career politician. And so that led me to believe that he'll be a better option to help our economy than a career politician. And I talk about why career politicians won't be good for the economy, and that they won't. They will refuse to actually get into the nitty gritty of those big major economic hurdles because it's political suicide. It's gonna hurt. It's going to hurt. It's going to slow down the economy to some degree. There's going to be less spending from the government. People in the government may lose their jobs, but we'll have to find other ways to get them jobs, other things to do within the greater economy and not depend on the government. And then how the Social Security gets balanced and all that jazz. I mean, it's going to be a knockdown, drag out. So you've got to have somebody that's willing to go in for 4 years and muck around. As I said earlier, the problem is no matter what a president says or a presidential candidate says, they still have to get those plans passed through Congress and the Senate. So winning a presidential election, you could have the best plan for the future of America, and Congress, career politicians are all throughout Congress, right? You still can't get anything done because they're not gonna budge. They're career politicians. So I picked the number one issue facing our country, and I vote based off of that. Maybe a secondary issue. I would lump them all into the economy, and I think that's the biggest thing from here on out. Climate change, not a problem. The climate is not changing fast enough for me to worry about it. It's like we're not going to burn up and die. We're not going to run out of fresh water, whatever, in the next 50 or 60 years. And I'm not going to be here in 50 or 60 years, most likely, right? So, and I don't really believe that in what they're saying is going to happen, because what they said was going to happen in 2020, it's 2020 and it's not happened. So that's crazy. Those putting out these issues, making these issues a big deal with no plan to solve it because you don't actually know the fundamental issues that are causing it is just silly, and it's a non-starter for me. If you could tell me here's exactly what is causing global warming, that's not even warming. If you could tell me here's the problem, here's what's causing it, and here's how you fix it, and we can fix it in whatever. Okay, I might listen to you, and it might become my number one issue. However, if you just say, oh, things are unfair, this is a problem, see these 3 things happen, across the world or in 3 different cities across the US, it's a non-starter. It doesn't affect that many people, and it certainly doesn't affect the majority of Americans. So it's just not a big deal. So can we fix it? I think we can fix the economy. I do. I think we can institute certain things, and we'll talk about that later. I'd love to hear what you think on the economy. But that to me is the number one issue. So I vote based off of who I think will be the best candidate, the best president to move the economy in the direction that best supports America as a whole, all of Americans, because I want all Americans to make more money, to work hard, and to earn a living. I don't think anybody around the world should have to work 2 or 3 jobs. If you put in a good 8 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours, you should come home at the end of the day with enough money in your pocket to have food for a family of 4, to have a nice place to live, not a mansion, not a house with a pool, not, crazy, but at least like have a house. I don't think you should have to live in an apartment unless you wanted to. I think you should be able to make enough money to have a, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house on a small piece of land and have the American dream. I do believe that. Whether you're a janitor or you're the CEO, I think if you put in a good day's work every day, 5 or 6 days a week, you should have that. I don't believe in minimum wages and raising this. I think there should just, if you have a business, people that work hard should make enough money to live. I don't think that means that if you work a lower paying job, you should complain because you don't have a Rolls Royce or a Bentley. I don't think everybody should have those things or have the ability to have those things just because they work 8 or 10 hours a day. But I do believe that we are a far enough along human race and country that if people are willing to work, they should have the basics. Period. All right. So before we get too long on this video, there's no way to agree with everything about a candidate. There's no way to know what a candidate's going to get through Congress. And then the last thing that I'll say, because it always comes up, is there's no way to assess a candidate's morality. There's no way to assess a stranger's morality, especially, right? So I'll say this about morality. Most highly successful people have stepped on somebody's back. They have screwed someone over in the business world or the political realm to get to where they're at. When all is equal, the people who want it more, who are willing to throw friendships aside, who are willing to throw, what people think of them aside just to get to a goal, they're going to treat people poorly to get to where they want to get to. It's partly ego, it's partly greed, whatever it is. At this point in America's history, I do not believe that anyone running for president lacks a ghost or two in their closet, a skeleton or two in their closet, and lacks an ego. They all have all of that stuff. And there's no point in debating who is more or less moral, because they all have their issues. And if we're being frank and honest, I have my issues, you have your issues, and so does everybody else. So the morality thing sort of goes out the window. I mean, a lot of people are talking about Mitt Romney with his vote and all that kind of stuff. I don't know Mitt for, nobody. And he seems like a nice guy, but I guarantee you there's skeletons in his closet. You don't make $50, $100 million because you're the nicest guy in the room. I guarantee you that. You don't get into that investment banking. Look, I worked in with friends like that. I've been in venture capital backed companies. I've seen how that works. And those are not the nicest guys in the room. They look like it, and they'll tell it to your face that they're the nicest guy in the room, but they ain't the nicest guy in the room. I guarantee it. 100%. So do we really even want the nicest guy in the room to be president? Because that's another interesting thing. If you've got the nicest guy in the room president, or the nicest lady in the room, and they go into a, to negotiate a trade agreement with another country, or a skirmish that may lead to war, maybe we get taken over. Maybe we get the short end of the trade stick, whatever it is, and then we lose jobs or whatever. So ultimately, having said that, if you live in America, you have benefited from that very thing, right? Because when you look at the 100 and some 200 nations, whatever there are now, they always change. I don't remember what the exact number is of countries now, of independent countries. But America has been, or the U.S. has been, the world leader since the end of or kind of maybe end of World War II, or getting into World War II. And so what's that, 80 years, give or take? Other countries very much look at the U.S. as the bully in the room. And so for all the talk about, equality and whatever, America is not clean in their international dealings. They're not clean in their internal dealings. So I'm not saying, so to use morality as a debate topic or point, it just doesn't hold any water, because everybody has their own problems. I've talked way too much about it because I don't really want to talk about it anymore. It's not really something that benefits a discussion. It doesn't move us forward, because what we really want is a better country economically. We want more equality, and I'm not talking about race or gender or whatever. Like, if you get a vote, you get a vote. That's great. But you shouldn't be putting stuff in. Not everything's not fair. All white people don't have the same opportunities that other white people do, and all black people don't have the same lack of opportunities that people would like. The media would like to say. There's a lot of people that have a lot of opportunities that we don't talk about, and then there are a lot of people that don't have a shot in hell at getting opportunities that other people do, and that's just sort of life. And there's no way to enact laws to make that 100% equal. And it's just part of life. So can we make things more equitable? Maybe, but that's kind of, how do you define equal? I don't think there's a really good way. What you think is equality probably isn't what I think of as equality. And I think for as long as we're individuals, we can debate that, but I don't think it really moves us forward as friends or, countrymen and women, as Americans. And so that's why I just go back to, here's the one main pressing issue that I think our president should look at over the next 4 years and try to remedy or do their best to. And that's how I vote. So thanks so much for watching this episode of the House Husband Diaries. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments how you vote. What do you choose? Do you agree with what I've said or not? I know you will. You'll let me know. So thanks so much again for watching. Like, subscribe, do all you got to do, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good day.